Our next guest is a top podcaster on iTunes. She is the brand journalist. Please welcome to the show, Phoebe Chongchua. Phoebe, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Do you remember the last time you were here?
Yes, I can't believe it. It looks amazing.
So you are someone I've been following for a long time. You're doing podcasts 3 times a week now, right?
Yes, for my show.
For your show.
I also do client podcasting, and I'm on another show with a company in Australia, which is coincidentally talking about brand journalism, content marketing, storytelling.
Right, which you've always been so good at. Seen you on TV for years back in the day. I want to talk to you about TV, but I don't think we should go a bit further before we have you tell your story. Tell people who may not know who you are a little bit about Phoebe.
Well, I started out here in San Diego, which is very unusual in the TV market, and I worked for just about every station at the time. Now, of course, there are many more stations today, including the bloggers and the internet channels, but I worked for Channel 10 primarily as a newscaster.
Okay, and at some point you decided to make a move away from TV. Do you remember why you did that or how that all came about?
It's, a very sort of a tragic story. I left because my father was dying of prostate cancer. This is about 14 years ago. But since then, a lot of folks have seen me on TV as a brand journalist, and we'll get into that.
Yeah.
So I have been working in television for more than 20 years. But when my father was dying of prostate cancer, he was here in the San Diego marketplace. Things were really changing. There was, sort of not quite on the burgeoning stages of social media yet, or YouTube videos like you folks are doing here, or even really creating your own shows. There was a lot more involved to it. But what I saw was a platform to enter into the web space, and that's where I play today.
Yeah, absolutely, as the brand journalist. So
Absolutely.
let's talk about that. What is the brand journalist brand, and what is the brand journalist advantage, as you call it?
So the Brand Journalism Advantage is a podcast that I do, and for those of you who wonder what exactly is a podcast, many people still say, in fact, I think as many as 3 out of 5 might not know what a podcast is. It's really just a radio show. Or, like I was telling you, a video show. So you can have video podcasts or you can have radio. I chose radio. I actually started with PBS, KPBS, right here in San Diego, in radio. So my roots are really tied to audio. And I chose that because you can be rollerblading, you can be at the gym, you can be cooking, and you're not going to miss anything. And we know that you have a very close connection when I'm on your phone, because that's where I reside, on people's phones. They actually download the content. Goes to your iPhone, your smartphone, you've got it right there. So I'm taking up some of the most precious and valuable real estate on your phone. And then I'm connected in the earbuds to my audience. And that creates a really intimate relationship.
You said something that's very interesting to me, that you can do a video podcast. Now, I've known that you can always, do that on YouTube and Vimeo and those types of platforms, but can you do that in like iTunes?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
And they're off the hook, let me tell you. So if you think about how many, I can't think of the exact figure for blogs, right? But blogging's been around decades. And if you think about how many blogs come online and how hard it is to compete there, the audience is only in the hundreds of thousands. And you go, what? But I mean, it's in the millions with blogs. So if you do a video podcast, if you took this one and you sent it to iTunes, you would have an audience like that and growing fast. And it would just be another channel for you. But it really creates the opportunity to see it on demand. And so when you look at YouTube, you go, oh, well, that's what YouTube does. Well, not exactly. Look at the platform. And believe me, YouTube's a large part of my income. So it's very important to me. But when you look at podcasting, you really own it and you have the whole platform. You create it and build it around your website. So it's, as I said, very intimate, very dynamic for you.
You said something there I think a lot of people are going to tune into. You make money on YouTube. How do you make money on YouTube? Do you want to go into that?
Well, I am not one of the top YouTubers, but I certainly use it as a platform. So I have various channels for my brands. And I mentioned that I have an internet channel. So when I left Channel 10, I started building what was maybe an e-zine at the time or a web magazine. My flagship was Live Fit magazine. It's now transformed, and like I say, I like to call it, correction is direction. I followed the marketplace, and I turned it into PCIN.TV, so Phoebe Chongchua Internet Network TV. And what I do is I source to YouTube, and then through that, you can run commercials. just like you do for this show or any other show that's on television, you have those commercial spots, and so
We're
then
commercial
you're
free.
paid. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Well, good
Just want
for
to throw
you.
that in there. Smarter San Diego TV, we make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free. Sorry, go ahead.
That's good, but those sponsors, or however you want to, just like KPBS is commercial free.
Right.
We all know there's.
You gotta get money from somewhere.
You got to bring in the sponsors. You got to have that. So however you want to do it. And actually, that's a good point to talk about, because the 30-second spot is long gone.
Isn't it?
And that's where brand journalism comes in. That's where the storytelling comes in. So we mentioned the Brand Journalism Advantage podcast,
Right.
in that we're teaching brands that every executive today has to be a marketer. They have to do more than put their LinkedIn profile up and think, well, I'm the big executive of XYZ company. You have to tell your story, and you have to emote. So there's acting involved in that. That's where, even playwrights are good at this. But when you marry together a brand journalist, which is really nothing more than a journalist married together with skills in marketing, when you have those two skills together, and maybe a little bit of the drama, I did a little bit of that in my younger years, then you have really a perfect scenario to tell great stories.
Yeah, and stories are what people pay attention to.
That's right. And if
Right.
you look at the commercials, look at the Super Bowl commercials.
Yep.
They were all stories. Did you notice that they were mostly, very cinema driven, and they were about a minute in length because they needed more time to tell a story?
Right. Yeah, and the story is ultimately how you really capture someone and get them to see the entire message. So you'll notice a lot of these commercials now, they're not branded until the very end. I think this is really the big question in journalism and brand journalism, whatever type of journalism or branding that you're
Sure.
doing, is what does the future look like for journalism, especially branding, with social media now becoming not just a big thing that everyone's doing, but actually becoming quite noisy. So what do you think is the future of those two things based on the current state of social media?
Well, I love it because you're turning the tables. I've done 160 episodes with guests for the Brand Journalism Advantage podcast, and we asked the question, what's the future look like in 2025? Let's, project out. And I got to tell you, brand journalism, storytelling is going to be the pinnacle turning point for marketing. The marketing department will be higher level executives, even more so
Tell us
than
a little
they
bit
are
about
today.
being
They'll
in
be
LA
infiltrated
and breaking into
every
acting.
department
What's that like?
of
It's a
your
tough
brand.
business, but you
What I
just
mean
gotta
by
work at it,
that
go to
is
class, go on auditions,
brands will
just
start
keep
to form what we
your
call
head high
brand
and just
newsrooms.
yeah,
So
don't give up.
essentially what you're doing
You
is
do
your
modeling
content
shoots like
here.
you
You're
did for
building out
us
this
with the
brand
Live Fit
newsroom.
magazine
Other
fashion
people look to it and may take portions of it. They may quote people from your show. When you are a brand that does that, let me give you just an example
Sure.
of someone I had on my show, Cleveland Clinic. So you have Cleveland Clinic, and then you have, where you have just the website, and you go and you learn about insurance and you learn things, about healthcare and doctors. It's pretty much a website that you go to maybe once, right? And then I'm done with that. But you have Cleveland Clinic's Health Hub that gets 3 million visitors a month.
Wow.
And how did they do that? They formed a brand newsroom. Some people call them media properties, media outlets. Brand newsroom is the perfect term because you bring in brand journalists, you run it like a TV news station, like a radio news station, like a print, publication, and then you source out your stories. And by doing this, they actually captured a larger audience share, and they captured so much of the media attention that the media would actually start to pick up the stories and then run. So
Wow.
you can see, now what does this do for a brand? Large or small? You can say, well, that's a big brand. You can do it with a small brand too. Large or small, it enables you to be the media, bypass the journalists like myself back in the day where you had to bang on our door and try to get the press release to us. That's so old school. This is new journalism. And the new way to tell your own story is more effective, and it reaches the people who really care about it. And you can also get traditional media to jump on board. But who breaks the stories more often?
It's not them anymore. It's people on the street. You heard it here
It's your brand journalist.
You heard it here first from Phoebe Chong-Chua. Phoebe, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh,
Really
loved
appreciate it. Thank you so much. That's Phoebe Chong-Chua, the brand journalist. Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else.